All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilman Larka.
Here.
Councilman Lord.
Here.
Supervisor Henn.
Here. Notation of exits in the front and the rear. Electronic device. Please put it on vibrate. Okay, work session. First item, make a motion to go into the work session portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda is discussion about Chapter 71 blasting. A few months back, we passed some changes to this. We increased the distance to 1,000, but there still seems to be a problem. We still get complaints from the residents up that way. And looking closer at the regulations, it requires notification no more than 30 days in advance and no less than 72 hours. Now, we just got a notice here on October 30th. Dear neighbor, this is to notify you drilling and blasting operations for rock removal will start on November 1, 2019 and continue through November 30, 2019. Blasting will occur sometime between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. at the following locations, and it identifies with the location. On the blast dates, we will sound an air siren 3 minutes prior to blasting and again 1 minute prior to blasting. There could be multiple blasts, small blasts per day. If you have any questions, contact us at your phone number. Now, I had requested them to identify how much blasting is being done, and we really didn't have any idea until we got the information. And I got this just recently. So in 2018, there were over 36 blasts at that site. And so far in 2019, there's been 23. And that was until October 7th of this year. Now, here's what I feel is the problem. In July of 2018, they had the following blast. Now again, they would have sent the notice to the town around the end of June, maybe June 30th, for July. So they blasted on the 7/12, 7/17, 7/18, 7/24, 7/25, 7/26. And then in the second quarter of 2019, they blasted on 4/1 and 4/29. So there was 28 days between blasts. You know, the people call and complain because, you know what, you're sitting there at your table. Okay, the first one you were just notified, like this one here goes out today, they blast, the first day, and it's fine. But when you get 14, 15, 16, 28 days into the month, and you're sitting there minding your own business, and all of a sudden the blast goes off, there's a concern. So the question is, do we want to reduce the amount of time, increase the amount of time, or reduce the amount of time? I mean, 30 days notice is a lot. So basically, every month since this blasting has started, they send out a notice at the beginning of the month. So for the past year, we're blasting. So they gave 12 notices, and they can blast basically Monday through Friday between those hours. And I'm just wondering, do we want to shorten the leash on that? And based on the complaints I've heard, I would say yes. So we're not discussion.
Do we know how much more blasting they anticipate? And I'm only asking because if they're going to end the project next week,
Well,
and
but-
it seems to just be one particular,
Well, no,
applicant or whatever.
I understand what you're saying on that, but it's a blasting law. So whether it's this one or the next one, if a person's only going to do one blast, but even though you wouldn't give a month's notice, so we're going to blast in such and such a day. So we're not picking on these people in particular.
Okay.
Right now, this is kind of an unusual project, and I believe someone was notified and said there were very few blasts to be done, but since then, there's been more. I just think we should maybe shorten the leash, because 30 days seems like a long time. I understand what you're saying. Now, sometimes, I knew someone who built a house, they had to blast one day. This project has taken a while, and who knows, another project may start somewhere else in town that's going to take even longer. So what are our thoughts on this?
I'd be comfortable with 14 days if we're going to lower it.
14 days?
My feeling is this, we keep hearing on this particular one, and I know it's an overall, we have to take really a bird's eye view on this, but I thought this was supposed to end at the end of October, and it's not, and I think we even got the notice late, and it's not to pick on, I'm told that this is a very good company, but any way we can protect our constituents is a good thing, and I don't think it's that much to ask to send out a blasting notice more frequently. So I would be all in favor of having the time limit reduced. I don't think, I know I had blasting done it years and years ago, and I made a real effort to talk to my neighbors before and that the day, and it's really not that difficult, so. I would, especially with communications the way they are, so I would really be in favor of shortening it.
John?
I agree. But on this particular project, it's, as Lynn said, and I've talked to Mike Levine, who's the code enforcement officer, and he's been talking to them. I think he even made a site visit there. He understood that this would have ended a while ago, that they were nearing the end. And I think we should maybe ask in the future if we get a blasting plan and understand what the scope of the blasting is and how long they expect it to last, and maybe do some permitting so that they have to come back to us at some point if they're not meeting their targets. Because this is a long time for the people in that area to have to deal with.
Well, it is. The only thing is an unknown. When you're blasting, drilling, you really have no idea how long it's going to take. There'd be, the veins could be deeper than we thought, the rock harder. I mean, I don't know. This is a pretty big area, I understand. But again, this is not about this area.
Right.
This is about any
This is
area
about
to be
our-
done.
Understood.
Again, someone may do a blast, for a foundation, might take one blast, two blasts in one day, not too bad. But something like this becomes a career. I know there's a place over in Carmel, I think, has been doing a lot of blasting over the years as well. Again, I just want to be fair to the neighbors. 1,000 feet's not a lot. We did increase it, I think, was it 300 feet? 300
Yeah.
feet originally? And we went to 1,000. It only increased it by one family. But I can imagine what they're going through. I mean, you're notified on, like, again, it's October 30th, they send out the letter. And they don't have to blast until, November 30th, based on our rule. And that's a long time to be sitting around, oh, it's not happening, not happening, not happening, and all of a sudden you come home and boom, there it is. Eric?
Just for clarification purposes, this particular site that you're referring to is subject to an approved site plan. And so they know the elevations that they have to reach in order to complete their project. So they should be able to give some sort of an idea as to how long it's going to take them to reach that elevation so that they can complete the site plan requirements. The other thing I was going to point out is that if you were going to reduce it to a 14 or a 15-day advance notice, what they end up doing is, instead of sending out a notice at the beginning of the month, they're going to send out a notice at the beginning of the month, the middle of the month. Whether that's going to give better forewarning to the consumers or the constituents out there that may be impacted by that, who knows? It's just going to add more expense to the process.
Well, I had said earlier, maybe 3 days to no less than 24 hours. But,
Can we have them identify when they'll be blasting?
well, they maybe don't know. It could be weather conditions and
I
whatever.
guess that's the commercially reasonable aspect of what they do. They do have to deal with Mother Nature as everyone else does. So they might have a window of opportunity as to when they can do these blasts. Like I said, it's not just this particular site. This is a major site plan development. So it does require, they are requiring a lot of rock removal. It really wouldn't be the same impact if you were just, as Lynn said, when you blast your foundation, or you run into ledge rock when you're trying to put in some sort of a structure. That may be one very isolated blast. This is almost not on the same scale of, but similar to when it seemed like it took years to develop the site that Home Depot was on. That was very similar in scope, in that they just continued to, until they brought the site to the elevations that were approved, they kept blasting rock and removing it from the site.
Yeah, I'm definitely for shortening the notice, but it would be better, I would think, if you could outline some time so that the people that are being notified can prepare in whatever way that they need to.
Well, I had suggested early on 72 to 24 hours, and the only thing is now, how are they notified? I don't want phone calls because, at least with a letter, there's proof that it was mailed, but the letter, so today with email and texting, I would like to maybe consider doing that so people can have, a more up-to-minute notice. Phone calls, there's no proof that it was made, and they said we made it, we didn't. Letters are fine because we get a copy of the letter. But again, this is dated October 30th, and this lasts until November 30th of this year.
Would it be possible to do the letter stating for a month, but then have them for all the residents that, this has been very long-term, but for the residents who are interested and want to be notified, give their email, and then the company would email them within the 72 hours, because it doesn't take a lot to do that. So at least they'd know the month, and then there could be email follow-up for those people who would submit their email address.
And if a person doesn't have email, maybe allow the phone call, in other words, let it be their choice.
Almost everyone does, but yeah.
Email, text, or whatever.
Right.
So, we can set, if we have another discussion tonight, we want to set a public hearing, we could put the 72 to 24 hour, let the public make comment on it accordingly, and add the word email, and let her go out 30 days. 30 days is still a lot. I'd rather reduce the time of the letter
15.
going out to 14 days, like what Edwin said on that part of it for the letter,
Right.
and then do the immediate one, 72 to 24 hours before the blast. It's going to tighten the window. It's still, even 72 hours is going to be a bit much. They might forget. It's fine that they let people know 3 minutes before the blast goes off. So, I don't know. 72 to 24, go 14 days and put that to the public hearing and see what the public has to say
Yeah,
about
but
it.
like Lynn said, 72 to 24 has to be text or email.
Yeah.
You can't expect them to send a letter
Oh,
out.
no, we
No,
wouldn't
no,
work.
no, no, I think they're all in agreement
Yeah,
on
all
that.
right.
Electronic.
And that has to be, if someone doesn't want to
Right,
get
if
their,
they,
that's
then
their,
that's on them.
exactly. But I think that's a lot more constituent friendly for
Okay.
those who.
So,
But I
I'll-
think a public hearing, obviously a public hearing is
Okay.
key.
So we'll set the public hearing this evening for our next meeting, which I think we'll have time. Well, we can get that in tomorrow, you think? Or even tonight?
When would be the next meeting?
2 weeks,
November 21st?
Is this
14
for
days.
a public hearing on a proposed change of the local law? It doesn't have to be in that long in advance,
Well, we have another, how long does that have to be in? A week?
5 days.
I'd rather have it in advance, but whatever. Okay, we'll make the deadline. Okay. Okay, we'll post it for our next meeting in the paper, and we'll put 72 to 24 hours, 14 days prior to, by letter, and add the word email and the letter prior to.
Back to John's point, or whoever did it, this property seems to have this pretty extreme mining operation going on there, and I think they did say they would stop blasting at the end of October.
Yes.
So,
It's not for them now.
what's that?
The rule would stay, we have to send it to the state, so if they're not blasting during the wintertime, it wouldn't affect them this year.
Okay.
No, but
Well,
it
that
would be
wasn't-
good for us to get an update if we're told it's going to end, and you tell your
Okay.
constituents, say, don't worry, we're done at the end of October, and suddenly it's another month. So it would be good to know.
So you want us to send out a letter to them asking
Yes.
how long the blastings continue?
I
Yeah.
think that
We'll
would
send
be
out a letter
appropriate,
tomorrow.
please.
Thanksgiving. Let's make it Thanksgiving.
I'll send out the letter tomorrow,
Okay.
when
Thank
finished.
you.
Okay, I'll make a motion now to move on to the regular portion of the meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Hi.
Okay, resolution adopting amendments to regulations and government parking in Southeast Station. Southeast Station, they have electric charging stations now, and our regulations that had nothing pertaining to that. And we're adding that. Also, we're gonna change, it's illegal to park at a broken meter and the vehicle may be ticketed. What's happening is people are jamming the meters, parking there, and then, and they were working fine, and all of a sudden they're jammed, they're using, Canadian quarters, putting gum wrappers in them, and there's a sign there, they're not supposed to do it, so they can be ticketed, but we're gonna put it in the rules and regulations, and also we're gonna add electric charging stations. Vehicles parked at electric charging stations shall be hooked up to the charger and actively charging their vehicle. Failure to do so may result in vehicle being ticketed. Now, what's happening, the vehicles are parking at the electric charging station. I don't know if they know how much they're charging here, home, whatever, but what they do is they put their hose in the car, but don't turn on the charger. So they're not paying for, and that defeats the purpose. In other words, the MTA, and this is all about, green energy, saving energy, et cetera. So when they're going in there, they're faking a charge. Now, why it's a prime spot? They get to park real close to the station, and it's a 1/10 to walk as if they had to park somewhere else. So we've been asked to add this to our rules. Everyone will be made aware of it, and therefore, we're saying, now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby adopts an amended regulations governing the use of Southeast Station in a form and substance and annexed hereto and made part hereof, and be further resolved that the town clerk, be and is hereby authorized and directed to enter said regulation in the minutes of this meeting, B, to notify the enforcement personnel of such changes, additions, or modifications that may be applicable, and C, cause such regulations to be posted and disseminated to holders of parking permits for Southeast Station, and be further resolved that this resolution and parking regulations enacted hereby shall take effect immediately. So move for comment.
Second.
Okay, and another quick comment. These regulations are sent out yearly to all those that have permits at the town trainers.
I know I get one every year when we renew, but are we gonna send like a new one, let's just pretend next week, once we adopt
Yes.
this, so that they,
Yeah,
because in
then
theory, I
the-
won't know until January then, and I don't want people getting
No,
tickets and
this,
whatnot.
right now, technically speaking, this will go into effect with the new regulations come
January
1.
1st? Okay,
perfect.
all right then, okay,
Yep.
We're still going to enforce the the parts that we can,
okay,
but everyone will be made aware of it.
okay.
And we don't have a count. I asked Susan if we wanted to add a line on these, when they go out for their permits, to identify who has an electric vehicle, which is nice to be known, but she didn't want to add that to it, so. But you can tell when they're there, easy enough. Because a lot of times they're taken, but again, some people don't want to charge, I don't get, well, I know why, they don't want to walk to the station, but then they're taking a spot from someone that wants to charge the vehicle. So, okay, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 2. Resolution, Durkin Water Company, Drew Realty, establish a performance bond. Now therefore be resolved that the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth below. Project name, Durkin Water Company, amended site plan, site improvements, $34,600. Soil and erosion, $8,300. And be further resolved that the certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the planning board's secretary forthwith. So move for discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, resolution, adoption of 2020 annual budget. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town...
Before we adopt this budget, I have a few things.
Mr. Bruin,
Sorry?
this is not a time for this.
It is a time.
No, sir, it is not. The time for this, Mr. Bruin, I have the floor. Mr. Bruin, I have the floor. I am running this meeting, not you.
Okay.
Okay, sit down.
I will have my comment.
You will have your
Is there
I call,
$125,000
ask for immediate recess.
between
Immediate recess.
your budget?
All in favor?
Aye.
Seconded.
Aye.
Come out of recess.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. We're on the budget, I believe?
Yes.
Now therefore be resolved that the town board of Town of Southeast hereby adopts the 2020 preliminary budget as amended, and for the annual budget for the Town of Southeast for 2020 budget, be further resolved, the town clerk is authorized and directed to cause a copy of the 2020 annual budget as adopted to be published on the town's website, and that sufficient copies therefore be made available to the town clerk's office for public inspection. So moved for discussion.
I will second for discussion.
Okay, now discussion. We had at the public hearing on in the budget for 2020, a comment about the museum. We did change, as promised, in the budget. The line $12,000 has now been up to the $40,000, and contingency was reduced from the $78,000 down to $50,000. That is in the budget, as we discussed at public hearing.
Good.
Okay.
And
Now, again, if you don't want to vote on this budget tonight, you can vote it down. And I don't have the next date if it were to vote
It's
down.
past the date. If we
Huh?
don't, well, the next meeting is past the date.
Our next meeting is past the approval of the budget time. But
Okay.
you can have a special meeting
November 20th. November 20th.
November
Yeah, it
20th.
needs to be done the
Next
day,
meeting,
the day
21st.
before our next meeting.
Right. So if you want to vote no, you can vote no, and if you choose to vote yes, so we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, for discussion, I would like to say that I did talk to the supervisor tonight about questions that were raised, and I know some constituents had about the budget. Those questions were answered satisfactorily to me. I understand the frustration because the public hearing was all based on the museum, but it was a public hearing on the budget. So I'm sorry that there were people that were confused by that. But I did, as I said, my questions were answered satisfactorily. And I don't think, and that's on me too, because I don't think I paid enough attention, as much attention as I usually do to the budget this year. So for that, I apologize.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
We've had talks about more money for recreation. I thought is there more money in the budget this year for recreation? I think about helping Kathy and
Yes.
with, so I think you were looking to add.
There's an additional person during the summer months to help them out prepare for the summer and things of that nature.
So that,
The special districts has that person.
Okay.
And now, because his person was more towards special districts and couldn't help recreation, they put in their budget requesting additional personnel, which I had recommended, and it's accepted in the budget. There's money in the budget to hire someone for the summertime to help them, yes.
and is there now a designated person to work with the planning board and a separate person to work with the zoning board of appeals? I thought that I thought that Victoria had issues with the amount of work that she was doing.
Victoria has a person, as she always has.
Okay.
She has a person now.
I know that Kathy.
Kathy left, but she has replaced Kathy's position.
And monies are in the budget.
Yes.
Okay.
There's money's been put in the budget all across the board. Everyone's got hopefully sufficient personnel.
Okay. What is our fund balance? It's hard.
Well, right now it's around $2 million.
Okay.
And based on this shortfall in revenue with the courts this year, we will not be going into it, but we will probably, hopefully break even and can't add to it.
Okay. And for the highway department, how much money is in there for road repair and paving? Is there a balance?
Well, any balance not used in this year's budget is forwarded to next year's budget. That's been the case forever.
And do you know what that
I don't know
figure
the
is?
number, no, I do not. I think it's around $1 million.
Okay.
The one thing I do want to explain, because every year I'm a pain in the neck and I ask for a freeze on town board salaries because we do go up, which is very smart in some ways because there never will have to be a giant increase. And obviously this year I'm not going to ask for that, so just.
Well, good for you.
Can you ask
And by
for
the
a
way,
raise?
it's 2%.
I can ask.
Ask so we can have a raise.
Yeah, see, I can do
We should be
whatever.
asking for a lot for us. No,
Yeah,
it's
so-
2%. The union
Just so-
contracts, both CSCA and Teamsters this year is 2%. Each year, the past 4 years has been 2%, and next year we renegotiate. and hopefully we can do 2 again, but time will tell, but it was 2% across the board. Okay, roll call vote on the budget.
Councilman Alvarez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart,
Yes.
Councilman Larka,
Yes.
Councilman Lord,
Yes.
Supervisor Hay.
Yes. Okay, number 4. It's a resolution, settlement of certiorari proceedings, S&L Management, tax map number 56.19-2-8. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Southeast does hereby accept the recommendation of its professional advisors and authorize the town attorney to execute a stipulation of settlement, consent judgment, and/or order on consent in accordance with said recommendation for the following. Petitioner, S&L Management, tax ID 56.19-2-8, year 2019, assessment $984,900, settled assessment $847,000. And be further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all stipulations, consent orders, or other documents necessary to reflect the foregoing settlement. So move for discussion.
I'll second.
Discussion.
I would just like to thank Lori Bell for working on all these assessments and certiorari proceedings. So, thank you, Lori.
Ditto from all. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is a motion to set a public hearing for 577 North Main Street special permit. Will be for November 21st, 2019. Will we have to get that in the morning? And also a public hearing for blasting on the same date.
Do we have to waive the rules for that, Tony? I have no problem.
Yeah, okay, well,
I
wait,
think we
okay, let's
should.
do the
Let's do it
motion
right.
on the first, on number
Right.
5. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, waive the rules, put something additional on, set a public hearing for blasting for November 21st, 2019.
I will second.
Okay, now this is for on the, to allow it on the floor. It's in second, all in favor?
Aye.
On the motion, seconded by,
Aye. Me. John Lord.
all in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Yes, ma'am. Just come to the mic and state your name, please.
My name is Joy Sarrow, and I live on Sycamore Road. And I'd like to speak to the board about 2 issues that concern the roads in the town of Southeast. And I've kind of been remiss because I haven't been following the budget talks, but to hear that there's a surplus in the paving budget,
Well, not just the paving budget. but
well, in the town,
Highway budget.
highway budget, blows my mind, because that's exactly what my issues relate to. And the first issue that I have is a very personal one. It concerns my house, and I wrote down what I want to say so I can stay on target and not waste everyone's time. So here I go. For the first 10 years that I owned my home, I was in constant communication with the highway department to address an issue with the roadway in front of my driveway. Although there is a catch basin to the left of my driveway, because the road is incorrectly pitched, water does not run to the catch basin. It accumulates in front of the driveway, and when it becomes deep enough, it cascades down my driveway. In the winter, this presents a significant hazard for ingress and egress to me and my family, and all invited and uninvited guests that attempt entry to my home, because the water runoff freezes and black ice makes the driveway treacherous to navigate. This creates a significant liability to me and has undermined my driveway. My driveway is in serious disrepair, but I cannot justify the money to repave it unless the town addresses the issue at the road. In the past, the highway department's solution to this problem was to increase the depth of the curb cut of my driveway to prevent water runoff. However, this is not a solution, as it has destroyed the undercarriage of 2 of my vehicles and the oil pan on another 2, because we have to enter and depart the driveway by jumping a curb, causing the vehicles to bottom out. I've tried to be patient, and I have not complained about this issue in the past 10 years, because I just assumed that eventually the road would be properly repaved and eliminate this hazard. But after this past winter, when icing of my driveway nearly caused my car to go off my driveway and into the woods, I can no longer take a passive approach. Which brings me to a related issue, and that being the Highway Department's decision to alter the grass circle on the cul-de-sac by digging out a rim of grass and replacing it with millings, which is not environmentally correct in the first place because millings contain asbestos. Kids play on that circle, okay? People walk their dogs on that circle. I'm an animal lover. Children, I don't know. But animals, I'm concerned about, so. But anyway, the highway supervisor advised me that this was done to prevent ripping up the curb of the grass circle during snow plowing. But this makes absolutely no sense to me, and in fact, the curb was ripped up after snow plowing and remained ripped up and in disrepair until very recently. It would seem to make more sense to have snow plowing training to learn how to avoid ripping up curbs in the first place. Altering the circle just made it look unattractive, and it is not suited to a residential community. But it did, over the years, remove the 4-inch curb that they put in front of my driveway. The Highway Department does not, and has not, during the 20 years that I have owned my home, mowed or otherwise tended to the grass circle. The residents on the cul-de-sac, myself included, take care of mowing and removing debris on that grass island, which by this alteration has been rendered hideous to look at. I was advised that the Highway Department only had to mow the island 4 times a year, and that they really don't like those islands. Okay, Sycamore Road is in very poor condition generally. There is more AC and patch than pavement. It's unsightly, and the road should really be repaved, or at least milled, heated, and rolled to provide a continuous solid surface. While hot in place is not ideal, it's better than nothing. My suggestion is repave the road and take the island out and solve all of the problems with Sycamore Road, my problem included. Alternatively, put in another catch basin to eliminate the hazardous condition created by the improperly pitched road in front of my driveway. That's my personal issue. The second issue that I have is with gravel roads being put down in the town of Southeast. And that, in particular, the use of gravel roads has several issues for me. First of all, without proper crown, water will collect on the road surface, and rain and snow melt, which aside from creating a hazard, will soften the crust. There's very limited, if any, shoulder to support the edge of the traveled portion of the roadways, and therefore no safety area for a driver to regain control of a vehicle. Adjustment to the crown must be made at several points on the road to take out normal crown and begin to transition to a straight elevated surface throughout all curves and then back again. Gravel should meet paved surface at the same elevation in order to prevent the creation of a hazardous condition, and I don't believe that this currently exists. Additionally, high shoulders allow water to seep into the subgrade, causing the roadway to soften. It also creates secondary ditches that erode large amounts of gravel and subgrade, creating a safety hazard. Gravel roads are generally used in areas where there are lack of funds to adequately improve the subgrade and base before applying pavement layers. Gravel roads provide lower quality service than paved roads. They are fine for low traffic areas, but the larger vehicles in use today and school buses require strength of subgrade and depth of material, along with proper crown and drainage in order to be successful. I don't know where the town acquired the gravel to do the roads, but I want to point out that you can't just use gravel taken from stockpiles that have been intended for other uses, such as gravel to be used as base or cushion material, as it may have larger stones and a smaller percentage of smalls, such as clay or sand. And likewise, gravel from material intended as fill has higher contents of fine, which is great for drainage, but on a roadway, it will remain unstable. Gravel roads are not maintenance-free. In fact, they require a lot more upkeep to maintain the foreslope, cross slope, ditches, and crown. The cross slope and crown of the roadway is what allows drainage of water away from the center of the road and towards the curbs or ditches. Recycled asphalt, that is, asphalt that has been milled and crushed over a strong subgrade and topped with the proper gravel, can be a good surface if it's at 3 inches compacted depth, topped with 30 to 60% gravel. I didn't see this occur on Brewster Hill, which I traveled several times during the road work. I don't know what was done on Joe's Hill or Cobb, and I don't know what other roads have been gravel tops. In summary, without the proper use of a motor grader, proper subgrade, proper gravel, proper crown, proper shoulder, proper drainage, and proper maintenance, you cannot provide a safe and stable gravel road. And in particular, Brewster Hill is traveled by children on a regular basis going to and from the school, by parents carrying children, and it is a treacherous road to begin with. I have 40 years driving experience, and I have gone off the road on that roadway in bad weather. And coming here tonight was no picnic, because there are already ruts in the road from the gravel. So I'd like the town to be mindful of the adoption of gravel roads in this town. I think in general, our roads are in poor condition, and a lot of them need to be addressed and addressed properly, not just hot topped and moved on. They need to be repaved. So I'm asking, in the interest of safety of everyone, that this town start focusing on the repaving of our roads, and to please, please address the issue in front of my home so that I don't kill myself or someone else kills himself. I'd really appreciate that.
Would you share that document so we can take it under advisement?
Yeah, these are just my notes, but absolutely.
Okay.
You can absolutely
We'll
have
just
them.
keep them so we can take it under advisement.
And just so that the board knows, my
Mrs.
son
Zarrow.
now is 4th generation paver, okay, and they don't pave driveways, they pave roadways, and they do utility repair. So all of my information is pretty on target. I also checked what I didn't know with the U.S. Department of Transportation, and they confirm what I'm saying. So I think with respect to, the gravel roads in our town, I think it's a penny wise, pound foolish decision, okay? And I don't know where this trend comes from, but I would not like to see it continue in my town. And as far as my driveway, I don't know how long I have to fight to get someone to come out and see the pitch. I mean, I get 4, 5, 6 inches of water, and when I have snow melt, it all just sits there. There's a catch basin that does absolutely nothing. So, either move the catch basin, put it in front of my driveway, or repave the road so it's pitched the right way, whatever.
Ms. Zarrow,
We
what-
just need something.
You may have said the number, and I don't know if you're comfortable saying it publicly, but what was the house number on Sycamore?
24.
24, okay, thank you.
And can I ask a really quick question, please? Thanks. Because I wasn't clear on when, was this a problem when you moved in, or was?
Right after we moved in, we noticed the problem.
Are
And
you-
I've dealt with several town highway supervisors
Okay.
over the course of time.
And were you one of the first, were you an early owner of the house?
No,
or
I'm actually the third owner of the house.
Okay, so this has been going on how long?
I don't know, I
But since
can't-
you've been there,
Since
so-
I've been there, it's been a big problem.
Okay.
And it seems to, no matter what the town has done as an approach to solve the problem, it doesn't. And it won't until something's done either about the pitch on the road or the catch basin. And like I said, I really have tried to be patient because I can't afford to wreck my cars coming in and out of my driveway. And more importantly, I don't want to get sued because UPS comes down my driveway and takes a skid off my driveway and into the woods. And my driveway goes down and it goes off into the woods, and it's a real concern, you know? I mean, we salt the heck out of it, but as a consequence, we're just deteriorating the driveway even more because, you know, we have to do something to combat the ice, you know, to be able to navigate it ourselves. So, like I said, we really need to repave our driveway. It looks horrible, but I can't spend $15,000 to do a driveway when this water runoff is, and our having to salt it so heavily is only going to deteriorate it. So that's,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, town board?
I have something, a few things. I think e-waste was very successful again this past weekend. I'm sorry I don't have the figures with me, but I know when I stopped by, oh gosh, it was before noon, they had 44 people, and usually the total for the day is
It's just
about...
about 50.
Yeah.
I went around 1:30.
Yeah.
And I think I was number 61.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so it's been a great success, and I'm very pleased with it. And so the only other thing I want to say is congratulations to Edwin Alvarez and John O'Connor on the election.
And I'll add to that Mike Burdick, and thank you. to
Yes,
those-
and Mike Burdick, I'm sorry.
And thank
Yes.
you to those that ran and gave the public the choice. John?
Yeah, on November 13th at 7:30 PM here at this facility, we're going to have a meeting about Tenetta Lake. There were residents that came about a month and a half ago to discuss issues at Tenetta Lake, and the Tenetta Lake Advisory Board will be here,
Tell them about the geese, though. The geese is...
and hoping Don Cuomo will be here as well, and the people that were here from Tenetta Lake, most of their concern was the geese.
Right.
So I'm going to try to get emails out to all the people that I spoke to that night, but we're going to be meeting here at 7:30 to exchange ideas and listen to each other. So if anybody is interested, please come, and if you know anyone who's interested, please let them know.
Edwin, anything?
Just wanted to wish those that have served a happy Memorial Day, happy Veterans Day on Monday, and thank them for their service.
Eric?
Nope, no comments.
And I think there is just to follow up on what Edwin said, I believe 11 a.m. at Veterans, Electrazone, the old Electrazone field that we still call Electrazone Field. I believe there's a ceremony, and it's usually really lovely, so.
Okay, and just two items quickly. 911 number, we keep talking to the public about it. We're starting to write notice of violations. Please post your number. And the second thing is false alarms. To date, the town of Southeast has had over 225 false alarms. We're getting numerous complaints from our fire department. They're being called out for false alarms, 225. That's a bunch, way, way too many. And what's happening is sometimes when our men can't go out, we have to call mutual aid. Patterson or Carmel has to respond to these calls. They get to their homes and their false alarms. They are now being given notice of violations and being ticketed. We don't want the money, we want compliance. If you're setting off a false alarm and you know it, please call 911 and say your house alarm just went off and it's a false alarm. They can at least stop 90% of what you started. But once they're notified, they have to come out. But if you call 911 and verify it's you, and they'll stop the call. If the call goes through, these poor men and women that go out there and respond to these calls are risking their life and limb all hours of the night because they come in constantly. So please, if you have a false alarm, we have letters going out, we give warnings the first time, and then the violations start mounting. We don't want the money, we want compliance. So please do it, and especially number your homes. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.